Alex, and they're gonna give us a tour of their facility. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
It's all yours.
Yeah. So this is where we make all of our rear suspension. So in this cell, we build all the subcomponents which come over, and then they get filled, vacuum filled. Rufus is running one of the vacuum fill machines right now. And then next to that, with those two poles coming up, is our dyno. So every single shock is dyno tested to make sure that it's working properly and doesn't have leaks or any issues. So this rack is kind of cool because you can see all the different models that we make. So on the left side here, we have all of our suspension that's air sprung, meaning that you have air in an air can. Those are awesome because you can adjust them for different rider weights really quick. So this is our Air IL, really special. It has no external reservoir, but it also has 4-way adjustment and a climb switch. Really awesome shock. And down here is the big boy, the Air CS, which does have that external reservoir and a little bit greater oil volume for handling tons of heat on long descents. That's Alex's personal favorite shock, for whatever that's worth.
What's the travel on this?
So we make a bunch of different sizes. That one ranges from 100, and I'm talking eye to eye, right? So from here to here, we do anywhere from 190 eye to eye up to 250. So wide, you can put it on a downhill bike or you can put it on a trail bike. So
What about the IL?
yeah, so on the IL, it ranges anywhere smaller. It can go down to 165, which is a really tiny little shock. And then you can actually, those go all the way up to 216. So pretty cool. I think this is a little 170 by 30. So we make all the all the new more unique metric sizes are no problem for us to make. Cool. Yeah. And so here's all our coil suspension. We've got coil ILs. So this valve body here is the same as on the Air IL. The difference would be that you put an actual physical spring on the shock, right?
Yeah.
And there's a big resurgence and interest in coil suspension for a lot of reasons. They're really consistent at different temperatures. You can service them a little bit less often, which I think for a lot of riders is really important. If you're a little bad about getting your equipment in for service, coil suspension can be better because there's less seals to maintain.
But service your suspension.
Definitely service your suspension. And yeah, so that's the coil IL, really unique shock. And that it has 4-way adjustment, and it has no external reservoir, and it's a coil. So no one else is making a shock like that. And this is our kind of the evolution of our original shock. So originally it did not have a climb switch, but it had that 4-way adjustment. And so that was, the original double barrel coil shock. And now we have climb switches on all of them. But that same DNA, twin tube damper.
Do you make changes year to year on shocks, or just minor?
So we don't have different model years. The way that we like to do it is if there's an update, we make it compatible with your existing equipment, right? And we do the same thing with the fork too. We don't believe in just like changing the paint scheme and calling it a new model year with no changes. We like to actually be able to install those updates in your existing equipment, which I think shows you that you have a quality product that can be updated.
And this goes back to our ethos of does it make the ride better?
Right.
And if there's a need to do something that's going to be different that will make the product better and make the ride better in a big way, then we can do a new generation or a new version. But we're not going to do that just because the calendar rolls over.
Okay, I got you.
So yeah, that's kind of. We've got trunnion shocks down here too. That's worth mentioning. Yeah. So it's kind of a quick general overview. We can kind of walk through and check out some of the sub-assemblies. We got to check out a dyno graph at least. Is that cool, Rufus? Yeah. So Rufus is the man.
Oh,
He keeps an eye on everybody and makes sure they're doing what they should be. He's got a lot of experience. But right now he's got pulled up. He was running a bunch of air ILs, I assume, right? And so you can see this is your 0 axis. So below this, these 2 lines are rebound forces, and then these are compression forces. And so what we're looking for is for all those lines to stay really tight like they are. Say I had a line way down here, I would know that that compression force was too low and something was up with that shock. Maybe a missing shim or who knows. But we would take the shock back apart, find out what the issue was, fix it, and dyno it again. So
That's pretty sweet.
yeah, and this line you can see it's like goes up a little bit more and builds force quicker. That is when you turn your climb switch on. So we test that all the climb switches work before we ship them off. And every single one of those has a serial number, which is printed on the bottom of the shock. Yeah, right down here. And so we save all of those serial number files, and then maybe a year from now, you can send your shock into Nate, and Nate can rebuild your shock, and he overlays your original dyno graphic with your rebuild. So it's pretty cool. We restore your shock to just like day one when we do the rebuild. So
What's when you do a rebuild? What's your rough turnover time?
So we're pretty quick. Usually it's about 5 business days.
Okay.
So yeah.
Depends on the time of year. Sometimes in the spring, everybody's
Yeah,
trying to
everybody
get it all
wants
done
it.
at once.
Right. Yeah. But usually we're able to remain pretty quick. I think for the most part, customers call and they go, "Oh, that's it." Yeah. Brand X told me 3 weeks on my other shock.
And it's one of these things that it's funny because during some of those backup times, and you know, you see Alex, although it's not his job anymore, he'll jump back out here and he'll be back
Every
and
once in a
forth.
while. I don't
Yeah,
get to help
yeah,
Rufus
yeah.
as much as he'd like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be nice.
Well, thank you. We'll get out of your hair so you can keep knocking it out.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
No problem.
Yeah, so Ralph is putting the air cans on those air ILs. So these would be all the shocks that are pulled up on the dyno right now. This process is really, really important to keep everything clean. Because even if you have like Rufus was always teasing me because if there's a hair on the shock, it probably came from me. And so he was always teasing me. Fortunately, we don't have to wear hair nets over here though. That makes me pretty happy.
Yeah.
And we have really cool tests. This is actually our hand dyno. And what you can see, this is actually soap because we spray every shock down with soapy water. It's a lot like seeing if a car tire has a leak, right? You'll use soap to figure out where the puncture is in your car tire. And so we cover the shock in soap and cycle the shock to make sure there's no leaks under pressure before it goes to the customer. Subbing up valve bodies, these will be built into either coil ILs or air ILs later. So we try and build these in bigger batches, and then they're consumed on work orders later. We store a bunch of parts on this rack back here, a bunch of oil seal heads. So basically, you'll get a work order for completed shocks, and a lot of these subcomponents will already be built and get consumed. And a lot of that has evolved just in the time that I've been here, so it's pretty fun to see our efficiency improve.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's how everything's done hand. Like everything's hand built.
Yeah. It's special because if there's one part that, for whatever reason, a machine didn't cut the threads on it, we catch it really easily. And even if just the tolerances are off on things, it's pretty amazing. You get really used to the way things feel when you assemble them together. And the guys and girls over here, they know if something's wrong, even without measuring it, just from the feel of assembling it. And so I think that's a really important part of hand assembly that you're missing if a robot is assembling. So
Cool.
yeah, but we can, unless you got questions on rear shocks, we can cruise over to Forks.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nate here, he's doing all our rear shock service.
Yep.
I was trying to catch him earlier, but I think he knew I was around, so he ran.
Actually,
But-
they were familiar, so I followed a buddy on YouTube.
Yep.
Bobo.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, it's a good time.
Yeah, you guys are hilarious.
Yeah.
It's all him. He does all the stuff. He just tells them what to say, and just do whatever he tells.
Nate's famous. Yeah, and he knows our shocks inside and out. He's doing a great job servicing them. So,
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. But yeah, this is where we're building all of our forks. So right now, everybody's building rear suspension, unfortunately, but it's the same general concept. This is part of our damper. This is like the upper assembly. So we build all of these subcomponents, and then you get a work order that consumes these subcomponents into a fork and tells you exactly what to pick. So over here, so here's a completed damper here. You can see it's a bladder style damper. So as it compresses, it actually expands. Pretty cool.
Wow.
It makes your fork feel really, really soft and supple off the top. And this is actually our new Work Series 130 damper. So it has the climb switch technology in it. And just like on the shocks, everything is serialized. So we can track everything, and when we do rebuilds down the road, we can pull up your original dyno graphic and compare, make sure everything gets restored to new. Here's a ton of air springs. It's one of my favorite parts of our fork. Really cool. But everything's built in batches, and it's all what we call lock tracked with the work order number. So there's a high level of accountability. We know exactly who built this batch of air springs, when it was built, what parts were used to build it, and that way, if ever there was some sort of quality issue, we would be able to address it really fast and keep everyone safe. Because for me, safety is like #1 priority, especially since I like to jump a lot. Just the idea of anything having a defect, I'm definitely Captain Safety over here. I know I get annoying to some of the guys, but
Better safe than sorry, right?
part of the job. Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Right now, we're building like a special new service station for working on forks, just to keep used forks and brand new forks separate, because there's always sand and debris on older forks, right? So that station will be really cool with awesome, places to clean everything and kind of keep the tools separate and all that, so that nobody's wrestling each other.
Right now, it's being used for that new sign I was telling you about.
Yeah.
The new sign for the building.
Yeah, new signs for the front of the building.
I like it.
So if we're done in forks, I can actually take you a little bit away from the noise for a second and show you some cranks.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
And I might step away at this point. I think I gotta get back to it. But
Hey, Alex, thanks
say
so much.
bye before you leave. And yeah, it was nice meeting you both.
Yeah. I'll see you in West Virginia.
Oh, I can't wait.
All right.
Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah, a friend of mine has rented a condo or something, so I think I'm just gonna put a tent up in the lawn of that condo and hang out for the weekend.
I like it.
Hopefully it rains, so that way all the pros will be grumpy and get the real West Virginia experience.
For sure.
Nah, I hope it's dry so we can ride in.
Yeah. All right, man. I'll see you then.
Yeah, nice meeting you both.
Yeah.
All right, so you start to see when the product gets assembled, boom, it goes on the shelf. So as you see, we don't carry a ton of inventory. Our goal is to have sort of that just in time. We build it and it gets on the shelf and then goes. So an interesting thing to see. Now we're going to come over here, and if the shipping people just kick us out of the way, then that's what they'll do. But we don't mess with them. They're the ones that get the product out the door. This is Lena. She's on YouTube.
Nice to meet you.
But I always like to take people back here because people know the E-Wings. Now we don't have a lot of these. Are almost entirely all road because the mountain E-Wings, they come in and they are sold the second that they come in. But I don't know if you've seen a set in person.
I have not.
It's like that scene from Pulp Fiction, right? We're very proud of these, and we have have been quite popular product for us. But
That's great. Oh my gosh. Holy cow.
and 15 to 30% stiffer than leading premium carbon cranks. Incredibly durable. We did a series of tests that we have a video online where we were having fun testing those with the engineers. We're dropping cinder blocks off of the roof. Tests that were just cracking carbon cranks left and right. We did it all to one set of E-wings. And Andrew Slowey, who's a maniac, then took them, jumped them about 30 feet to flat. But what we don't have in that video that we shot, I don't know, probably a year ago, is that Andrew still has those on his bike.
Wow.
Still rides them to this day. And that was after they'd been hit with a 1 pound rock strike going something to the effect of 20 miles an hour. I don't know, watch the video. But he's still riding those cranks.
What's this way? I mean, I can feel it, but obviously.
You got me on the spot, and I should know that right off the top of my head, but I don't. I want to say...
I'll say light.
It's very light. I want to say right around 300 grams.
Damn! That's light.
Yeah, I should
Thank you for showing me.
Got me on the spot. Yeah, absolutely. So, take this and then kind of look at... This is the Sidebuster ST suspension seat post, and it's one of those things where I think a lot of people look at it and say, what is that? But particularly for commuter bikes, e-bikes, and some gravel applications, people are really, really enjoying this product.
Not heavy at all.
No, not heavy. Great product. And that's what they're making back here. But I want to show you guys the headset. Headsets are a lot of fun. In various pieces. We are no longer doing the 110s in colors. We still do have some remnant inventory, so it's always fun for me to come back here and, you know, the glory days when people had these EC headsets on their bikes. And you still get them, but it's just this like really, really cool blingy stuff. So it's always fun if one of us picks up like a steel or a tie bike and we're able to come through and say, oh man, there's still some cool colors, and we'll get a hold of that. But yeah, just some headset inventory.
Wow.
Everything from the angle set, which allows you to adjust the angle of your headset, to I'm not familiar with where everything is, but we've got the slam set, which is a incredibly low stack headset. We've got our air headset, which is an ultralight headset geared mostly for road riding, but it's a premium ultralight headset. And then just last fall we released the Hellbender 70, which is a high grade headset that contains the Hellbender bearing, which is also our 110 bearing.
Okay. And
it is just incredibly resistant to muck and mud. The Hellbender is actually a type of salamander that's endemic to this area. So
is that the logo?
No,
Canecreek?
that's a skink.
Okay.
So we just have our lizards, right?
Okay.
They're not lizards, I know that. They're salamanders. But
Do you have that Hellbender?
There's the Hellbender 70. And you know the old bearing test, right?
I don't.
Well, no, that's the thing, right? Every time you get a bearing in your hand, you have to spin it.
You have to.
It's like, let me.
It's like the original fidget spinner or something.
It's like I'm a bearing expert. But they have large balls. They have high viscosity grease, high density grease. So really, really good, water resistant, durable bearing. The seals are excellent. Manufacturing and prototyping area, primarily prototyping these days. Which means we got to make sure there's no prototypes back there. This is where our schedulers are keeping track of all the orders and what needs to go out the door, and they're shifting it. For those of your audience that are interested in road brakes, these are our e-brakes, incredibly light, incredibly strong, really cool little brake for us, described earlier. And then, if you'll just hang out for 1 second, I have a power. Okay. I unfortunately cannot take you guys
Okay,
over
that's
there
fine.
right now.
That's fine. Appreciate it.
But that is an area where we historically have done a lot of different manufacturing of 110 headsets, for instance. Sometimes brake arms, little parts that we'll need. Primarily, the majority of our machining is actually done in Taiwan, but all of our prototyping is done here. So when the engineers design a part and they say, hey, you know what, maybe we're gonna take a look at this 3 or 4 different ways, or let's tweak it, they can actually schedule it back here and have it built, have it assembled, and then potentially be riding it later that day or the next day. So it's a really cool way for us to just be able to prototype pretty quickly.
That's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks so much.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you showing the facility and coming on the podcast.
Yeah.
And yeah, hopefully I'll come back sometime.
Happy to have you.
Thanks for watching.